Hi, friends! Welcome to 2025 and another episode of A This and That. I cannot believe it's already 2025. I was just thinking to myself the other day, like, we are almost halfway through this decade. Like, I remember when 2020 started, because we were in the 2010s for a while, and that was normal. And then 2020 started and just began a series of abnormalities in our lives as we had known them. And it's 2025. Like, where is this decade rushing to? It's shocking, it's amazing, but here we are. It's 2025. I'm so excited for this year. I'm so excited for you wherever you are. I hope you're embracing the new year. I hope the new year has started for you very well. Today we're going to speak about a very interesting topic. We're going to speak about failure. Bummer. I know. Just hear me out. So, I was looking back at my 2024, as one does. And for me, I think one thing that kept coming to mind was that I had this sentiment that 2024 had been an epic fail. I felt like there was so many things that I had planned to do that I didn't get to do that year, or at least they didn't turn out the way I had hoped they would, right? There are so many things that I had wanted to go a specific way that went, just not in the way I wanted them to go. They did go their own way. And so I was kind of, speaking to a friend, and I was telling them, like, oh, this year was an epic fail and I feel like I didn't achieve anything, yada yada yada. And the friend kind of told me, like, well, what do you mean? Like, anything? And I was like, ouch. um, and I think those words stayed with me because I sat with that and I was kind of like, did I really achieve nothing? Like, absolutely nothing? And I had to think of what my perception or my idea of achieving anything meant, right? And that's kind of what has spurred this episode. In fact, I tasked myself with sitting down and coming up with something, at least 5 things I am grateful for each month of 2024. So I sat down and I thought about January, what happened. Not what did I achieve, but what happened. What did I do in January? I did XYZ, I took this trip, I went to see this friend, I did blah, 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 blah. Whatever the case, I had to come up with 5 things for each month that I was grateful for. So those are 60 things that I was thankful for. And the exercise took a number of days. At the end of the exercise, I realized, like, I had even forgotten a lot of the things I was so happy about during the year, and not thinking of those things as successes or failures, but like just being able to sit down and be like, I am so thankful that I went on that dinner with that friend and this happened after that, yada, yada, yada. So now reflecting back, what does it actually mean to fail? What does it actually mean when I said the year was an epic fail? And I actually Googled, as one does, what the meaning of failure is. And according to the dictionary, to fail is to be unsuccessful in achieving one's goal. I mean, no one is surprised by that. When I say failure, I think we all know what I mean, and especially considering the markers of success that we have come to understand in our society. For example, whether it's getting a big job, whether it's getting married to a certain person with a certain status at a certain time of your life, whether it's having kids, having a big car, having a big house, having money, like those are the markers of success. And especially when that is your goal, right? And I think when I was thinking about this, I was like, then yeah, I failed, I guess, because I didn't achieve the goals I had. For example, if your goal is to have a successful business and you put your money into it and you're like, I want to achieve revenues of X million shillings or X million dollars in 1 year, or whatever the case may be. If you don't achieve that, then that's failure, right? Or I want to get into Harvard Business School. If you don't achieve that, then that's failure. But then I was thinking about it. Is that actually true? is it actually true to say that if I apply to Harvard Business School, for example, and I don't get in, that I have failed? And I think as I was pondering about all this, I realized a couple of things. One is that as human beings in a capitalist society, and especially where we are often measured by what we produce and what we achieve, there's a very specific idea we have of what it means to be human, right? So, to be a successful human or to be a productive member of society, you need to go to school, pass your exams, get a good job, get married. Like, there's a very specific script of what it means to be a successful human, and therefore it's very easy to recognize what it means to fail if you're following this script, because it's very specific. If you don't get a good job after school, you're failing. Or if you don't get a job at all, if you don't xyz. The problem with that framing or that perspective is that unfortunately our humanity is so expansive, and it's literally impossible to say what is right and wrong in the context of our lives, in the context of our decisions. I guess in terms of big decisions in our lives, essentially I'm saying our lives are not linear. We often think life is linear because it's been drummed into our subconscious since we were very young. This is what it means to be a successful human being. But that's hardly what happens. Life itself is so dynamic. There's so many twists and turns. You go to school, you're like, okay, next thing is a job, boom. You realize, wait, I want to do more school. Or you drop out of school because of a challenge you're experiencing. Or you realize, I actually don't want to do school. I want to drop out of school and start a business. Boom, already you're deviating from the linear path that you're supposed to follow. Our lives are more like a jigsaw puzzle. And the thing is, we all think there's a specific way at the end the puzzle is supposed to look like. But you're literally creating the pieces of the puzzle as you go. So the pieces do not exist. They do not exist somewhere, and then you go to pick and put it in a specific place. Maybe even a jigsaw puzzle is the wrong analogy, because a jigsaw puzzle is very prescriptive. There's specific pieces that are supposed to fit in a specific location, and when you put it all together and you look back, you're like, voila, this is the picture it's drawing out. The thing is, in our lives, we are the creators of the jigsaw puzzle. We get to define what the pieces are. We get to create the pieces, put it in, and determine whether it fits or it doesn't fit. Unfortunately, that's not how we think about it. Like, our lives are our own, but we often live them as if we are doing a test, as if there's a correct answer, as if there's a wrong answer. And so we're like, okay, I need to start a business by 25. And then 25 reaches and you haven't started a business. Maybe you're still in school. Maybe you're building a family. Maybe whatever the case happened. And then it's like, oh my gosh, I guess I failed. I didn't do what I was supposed to do. And this is why people, get to a certain age and they're like, it's too late for me. I've lived my life. I didn't achieve anything. And the thing is, no one's gonna arrest you if you decide at 60, I'm starting a business. But because we are so tied to specific timelines, because we are so tied to specific scripts of what we think our lives should be, then we don't get to live our lives as they are. I personally don't believe life is predetermined. The idea of your life has been predetermined. You're meant to go to school in this country, in this province, in this state, whatever. The idea that you're meant to meet this person, you're meant to do this job. I personally don't buy that, because I think there's so many factors at play at any given point that make our lives how they are. And it's not just our decisions, it's also the decisions of other people. For example, if you're like applying for a specific job, there's so many factors that went into why that job is hiring in the first place. Somebody probably went on maternity leave, or somebody quit the job and that's why there's a position. So their decisions have created an opportunity where now your decision to apply can come into play. And then you have the hiring manager or whoever is like responsible for filling in the role. They have to make decisions. They can decide, okay, I'm going to, maybe today I'm getting 9 hours of rest before I do this interview with this candidate. If they don't get 9 hours of rest, maybe they're irritable, maybe they're like not in the best mood, maybe even when they interview you, their perception of you is warped by their own individual circumstances. There's so many factors that go into why things happen. And it's like a billion people are making decisions at any given point in time, and they're all different decisions, but all these decisions affect one another. And that's, I think, what leads to the things that happen as they are. Our lives are a sum of our decisions and the decisions of other people, right? So it's like, yes, were you meant to meet that person that now is the love of your life? Probably, but it's like you made decisions that led you to be in a situation where you would meet them, but they also made decisions that led them to be in a situation where they would meet you. And other people in both your lives also made decisions. Do you know what I'm saying? Essentially, there is so much randomness. I know this is probably a cynical view. I do believe in spirituality, I do believe in God and all that, but I think also at the same time, I don't personally believe that things are predetermined. I think life is unfolding as we speak. I think me choosing today whether to stay in bed the whole day or to get up and go to the gym and do this episode and whatever the case may be, both those things will lead to different outcomes. There are things that will happen whether or not, like regardless of my decisions. There are things that are going to happen regardless of my decisions, but how those things affect me are less predetermined than we think. And the same case for success and failure. I think oftentimes when we attach ourselves to a very specific view of success or a very specific view of failure, and we internalize that, we attach it to our own decisions, to our own selves, I think it leads to this fallacy that we have a lot of control over our outcomes. And the beauty and the devastation is we don't really. Unfortunately, we don't have as much control as we think. One example I think of is 2020 when the pandemic started. And I think if you think about it, in 2019, like a lot of people were very hopeful about the new decade. It's like 2020, finally. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we're getting to 2020. That's insane. The economists were all saying all these things, all these predictions about what the economy is going to look like in 2020. There were a lot of things, a lot of people were looking forward to a lot of things. People were like, oh, I'm going to start my business in 2020. You know, it sounds good. Like when you say something like established in 2020, it sounds amazing. So a lot of people had a lot of plans for the new year 2020. And then in March, the pandemic hit. And it's like, it changed everything. And so all the businesses that failed in 2020, are those failures really? In the sense that, did those people, like, yes, I guess they didn't achieve their goals, but the failure, so to speak, has less to do with those people's abilities and those people's determination and all those different things, and had a lot to do with external factors that were in nobody's control. Now, someone could say the businesses that became successful were those that adapted quickly to the shifting situations. And that is my point. Life is always unfolding as we speak. And so attaching ourselves to a specific outcome, a specific way of how things must be, I don't think is going to guarantee us success in life. I think for me, one reframing that I've been able to do in my life is, for example, do I want to start that specific business, or am I simply trying to create a successful entrepreneurship career? And that can look like the first business works out great and then I spin off another business, Or it can look like the first business didn't work out, but the lessons I learned, all the things, all the networks I had built trying to stand up the first business came in handy for the next business, which then was successful. And when you zoom out at the end of your entrepreneurship career, you can say, wow, I stood up 5 businesses. I tried 20, 5 worked out, but the 5 that worked out were amazing and outstanding. I think sometimes when we attach ourselves to a specific thing and a specific outcome, we are kind of limiting ourselves, and especially when we over identify with it. If that thing doesn't work out, then it's boom, done, I've failed. But when we reframe it and say, instead of trying to make a specific thing work, if it does, boom, perfect, I'll take it, I'm taking it. But I think it's probably more important to think about it in terms of, when we look at our lives, we are making it up as we go, because that's literally it. We're always making it up as we go. There's no script, there's no correct answer, there's no one at the end waiting at the finish line with a prize for us. It's you who gets to say, this is what I want next. I thought I wanted this thing, but not anymore. I'm changing the script. You're the director, you're the producer, you're the actor, you're the audience. You get to do everything and then sit back and watch it. Isn't that amazing? I think a lot of us get so caught up in this idea of wanting to make the right decisions, wanting to be right, and forget that being wrong is inherent to the human experience. It's unfortunate, but that's just it. That's just a feature of our humanity. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Of course, there's steps you can take, there's measures you can put in place to make sure that whatever you're doing, whatever you're putting your effort in, has a better outcome. But I think at the end of the day, there's so many factors that go into why things happen the way it happens. Failure or missing the mark or making mistakes is such a feature of humanity. It's gonna happen. It might not happen at work, it might happen in your relationship, it might happen in your friendship, it might happen with family. You're gonna be wrong at some point. That's just what it means to be human. Unfortunately, you're gonna be wrong at some point. And instead of beating yourself up about it, it's more about looking at it as a journey. One philosophy I'm living by these days, life is so regenerative. Even if you prune a tree, its branches will grow again. Even if you cut off the leaves of a plant, they will bloom again, or they will shoot again. Even if you cut grass, it will grow again. Nature has taught us that life is so rejuvenative. And so for me these days, I think, well, I didn't achieve that thing. Or like in the timeline, I thought I didn't get to do the thing that I thought, blah, 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 blah. But life is so rejuvenative. It's like, even when I have no experience in marriage, so I'm just spitballing here. But even when people say things like, oh, I have a failed marriage, I get the sentiment, but it's more like, or did you have an experience? Because no one gets into a marriage or a business or anything of the sort, like a big decision like that thing, being like, yeah, I'm making a mistake and here we go. A lot of people are just trying, and when they're trying, they're hoping it works, and then it doesn't work. That's just a human experience. It doesn't mean, oh, you're a failure. It doesn't mean, oh, you can't have a marriage, or oh, you can't have a business or anything of the sort. It just means that was an experience. It didn't work out. Now you know, maybe that wasn't the business idea, or that wasn't the time. Sometimes it's also like, maybe the business wasn't ready to go to market, but now you know more. I think reframing our successes and our failures as even successes. Let me tell you something. I think a lot of times people focus on, oh, failure is a lesson, blah, 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 but so is success. I think TikTok has been in existence for a while, and I don't think that they anticipated the success they would have in 2020 as a result of the pandemic. Because like everybody, the pandemic caught them by surprise. When the pandemic happened and everyone was working from home or bound to their homes or remote or whatever the case may be, And then people started looking online on platforms and forums and everything, and TikTok blew up because now everyone was bored, everyone was sad, everyone was stressed in their homes, and they just wanted something to do, something to keep them busy, something to keep them connected to other people. And the success of TikTok, I would say, as much as they had an audience, they were already semi-successful, I think the blow up of TikTok was as random, or by random I mean no one could have planned for it. So sometimes even like people who are like successful and then they're giving us speeches and telling us this is what I did to be successful, sometimes failure and success are just random events in the experience of being human. It's like you do this thing, it's just the right circumstances, it's just the right time, it's the right environment, and boom, it's a massive success. And you can't even explain it because you do the same things you are doing in a different context and it doesn't work out. I believe our successes, our failures are more random and more arbitrary than we think. Now, there's definitely certain steps you can take to increase your success, to reduce your failure, and this episode is not in contrast of that. It's just saying sometimes we really internalize success and we really internalize failure, and we think, yes, I got this because I worked hard for it. Yes, and also there were a lot of factors outside of your control, outside even of your knowledge, that went into why that worked out. A lot of it is luck. And even when we fail, we internalize it and we say, I didn't do well enough, I didn't work hard enough, I didn't. And sometimes maybe you didn't and you need to pull up your socks. But sometimes it's like you did, but sometimes it's just not in your control. What does this mean? Does this mean we sit back and say, well, since I can't control anything? Absolutely not. I am a trier. One thing I will always define myself as is being a trier. I will try everything. I will put my effort. I will put in the work. I believe in trying. At the end of the day, you have to try. You have to put in the work. You have to put in the effort. You have to keep going. You have to keep striving. But I think I'm trying to say not to get too attached to a specific outcome, because my goal at this point in life is to live a full life. And as if you speak to any old person or even middle-aged person, your life is gonna be full of successes and failures, full of highs and lows, full of joys and sadness. And that's just the human experience. Life is both so beautiful and so devastatingly cruel at the very same time. And it's important to embrace both because they're gonna happen. Finally, I've been listening to this wonderful podcast called Community Chronicles by Stella Noella. It's amazing. It's a collection of stories from people about their 20s. And the most recent episode I listened to, the guest spoke about how nothing is wasted. Sometimes we feel like, oh my gosh, why did I even chase that business idea? Why did I even get into that job and I was miserable for 5 months? Why did I even... Nothing is wasted. There is no specific way that your life is supposed to go or your life is supposed to be. Everything that's happening in your life, you're writing it as you go. It's unfolding as you speak. Are there obvious things you should avoid or can avoid? Blah, blah, blah. Absolutely. But nothing is wasted. All your experiences, all your highs, all your lows are just all working together in the orchestra that is your life. And so this is my call to you to embrace the full experience of what it means to be human. And part of that is success, and please embrace the success. And part of that is failure. And please know that even in the failure, it's just kind of a feature. Dance in the failure, dance in the success. This is just what it means to be human. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I would love to hear your thoughts on the same. I would love to hear from you about this, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye!